You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, the Hero Group, a black-owned creative and digital innovation studio, has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit in Illinois' Northern District Court against marketing company DDB, alleging DDB exploited Hero to win a 10-year, $4 billion U.S. Army contract. The breach of contract lawsuit states that DDB, which is owned by Omnicom Group, one of the world's largest advertising holding companies, apparently did not compensate Hero Group for 2 years' worth of work, nor allowing them to participate in reaping the rewards of the contract. The company's CEO, Joe Anthony, wants larger ad agencies like DDB to stop swindling smaller minority companies out of millions of dollars. Joe Anthony joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joe, glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Roland. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's set this up before we get into the details of the lawsuit and all those different things. Let's set up for the people watching and listening so they understand what we're dealing with. The media industry, the advertising industry, is a $150 billion annual industry. We're talking about this is how television networks, cable networks, magazines, websites, podcasts, you name it, are run. All of these companies out here, they utilize these ad agencies. So whether you're a Coca-Cola, whether you're a McDonald's, Procter & Gamble, whether you're a Nike, they use these agencies to handle and determine how their media dollars should be dispersed. So what we're talking about here are black people who are consumers of these companies not reaping the benefits of the very media ad dollars being spent by these companies.
You nailed it. And I'm gonna simplify it even more. That black and minority-owned marketing and media agencies in the United States are facing an extinction-level event, right? There is a systematic effort that is being put in place by these big agencies to diminish us, to utilize our ideas, our access, our culture, the color of our skin, to satisfy specific quotas in which they're mandated to win these contracts, just to then circumvent that criteria and discard us like trash. And we are then left with the decision to engage in a very expensive legal battle under the potential fear of being ostracized and blacklisted by an industry that is not even entertaining us anymore, or to just sit back and take it and hope that at some point they're going to throw us some crumbs off the table, right? And this is resulting in a significant loss of revenue to Black-owned publishers, radio stations, digital media companies, to ad agencies like mine, who literally actually can add value to these campaigns in a way that can optimize, the marketing and recruiting strategies that institutions like the U.S. Army, so desperately need when it comes to trying to recruit, men and women of color, right, who over-index in recruitment, but unfortunately we under-index in the amount of investment that's being made through these agencies who are bestowed with too much power to appropriate the funds to small businesses in a way that allows us to make a meaningful impact on the business and then be able to employ people of color and then reinvest in our communities in a way that creates jobs and builds wealth for these economic, and filling that economic inequality gap that we so need and everybody keeps talking about in Washington. But there's still a lot of these improprieties that are happening at the federal and at the prime contractor level with these big agencies that unfortunately are resulting in the money not trickling down to where it's supposed to be.
So let me help the folks who are watching. This is what I have been telling y'all for the longest. I have been saying for more than a decade, I fear the extinction of black media. Why did I say that? Because if we're being frozen out of the advertising dollars, there is no business. What I said to people is that it's the game. Joe, perfect example. When we went after last year, Young and Rubicam control the media dollars for the U.S. Census. They had a process. We filled in the process, went to their portal, filled it out in April. Never heard from them. We get down to the last month and a half, I'm like, what the hell? I start putting their ass on blast. They then called the black ad agency, Carol H. Williams, saying, oh my God, what's going on? And she says, y'all never responded to him. Now, Carol H. Williams, they know who I am.
Yeah.
It helps that my wife's aunt is Carol H. Williams. But they knew me without that being the relationship. And so, Carol H. Williams would have ensured that Roland Martin Unfiltered receive advertising dollars for the census. Young and Rubicam, we don't know who the hell Roland Martin is. They didn't care. Congressman Stephen Horsford told me on this show that Y&R told him, we are not going to spend any money with any newspaper with a circulation 50,000 or less. Right there, you have eliminated 99% of all black newspapers in America. So for the people at home, they have to understand, you're spending your dollars as a consumer. The media dollars are not coming back to media companies. And so then people, Joe, ask, well, Roland, why can't you have reporters going here? Why can't you afford this? Why can't you afford to be able to send folks on Air Force One with the president? Easy. Because if we do not have the media advertising dollars, we cannot build capacity. Capacity means staff. Capacity means bigger studios. Capacity means a larger company and employing more people.
The writing's on the wall. And, all you have to do is look around, and see our media platforms that we've patronized and have been part of our lives for generations continue to go out of business and deteriorate. Right now, there's probably a handful of Black-owned media publications that are still in business, struggling to stay alive. These big media buying agencies they don't understand what local and community journalism means. It's too much of a headache for them to engage each individual publisher and execute a insertion order versus just pressing one button with a national newspaper and being able to so-called get the same reach. But what they're not getting is that community impact, the penetration, the authenticity, the trust that comes from local media. In exchange, they don't want to do the work. And then they're not even bestowing companies like Carol H. Williams with the ability to subsidize their apathy or their desire not to do the work, right? So how do you want it? Okay, you want to reach this community. You don't want to spend money with the media partners that actually have the equity and the access. And then you don't want to empower agencies that will do the heavy lifting for you if you don't want to do the work. And so, you know, I'm amazed by this, where it's like, what do you want us to do? How can we then, to your point, reinvest in our business to get this scale that then qualifies at the level where it warrants your attention?
And so let's talk about what happened with you. You spent 2 years working with DDB to land this Army contract. These ad agencies love these big contracts. A 10-year, $4 billion contract, that's $400 million a year. That's business locked up. And one of the things that people don't realize, Joe, is that, and I knew this before, but I really learned it with the Y&R. Y&R is up here. They then give the contract, they basically take their money off the top and then give it to the company down here that they also own. The company here, I think, was Wavemaker. The company here then gives the digital piece to a company they own. They give the broadcast piece to a company they own, and they give the print piece to a company they own. So hell, they getting 3 bites at the same apple. So walk people through what y'all did with DDB to help them get this contract, what you poured in for 2 years, because you're thinking, man, if we're able to get a piece of this, that means I've locked up business for my company for the next decade, so I can build other things around that because I've got a base of significant dollars coming in from just this one contract.
Well, I'll take you back a little further because it's important to give you context that I actually in 2002 was awarded a piece of the U.S. Army contract through the agency that had it at the time, which was Leo Burnett, right? And Leo Burnett was actually a company that valued their diverse supplier partners and gave them a seat at the table, all right? When Leo Burnett lost the contract, I was one of the only small business partners to move over to McCann Erickson, and I worked with them on the business for a few years before they found a way to get rid of me because of the same reasons you articulated, their desire to really kind of find ways to keep the money in-house. But when I knew that the contract was coming up for review again, and given my experience, I knew that I would probably be a hot commodity to specific big agencies that were looking to tap into prior experienced partners. So I reached out to DDB because I found out that they were actually going to bid for the contract, and I offered my services. In January of 2017, I was invited to Chicago and asked to participate and team with them on the pursuit of this contract, which resulted in me executing a what they call a teaming agreement with DDB, which explicitly outlined specific expectations that each one of us would receive should we win the business based upon our relative investments. So I participated in a series of ideation sessions, strategic sessions. I brought to bear my full experience, my background, my understanding of obviously the target segments that they wanted to make sure my expertise, that they were able to tap into my expertise for. And parts of my contribution were utilized in their pitch materials when they actually presented live to the U.S. Army. Now, because this was such a highly contested account, it took almost 2 years for the business to be awarded. So throughout that time, I continued to provide counsel and insight and my overarching expertise and understanding of the Army culture and some of the political aspects that govern these contracts to make them feel or educate them more on the process, right?
So basically, for people to understand, you are a secret weapon. Well, not secret, but you are a secret weapon for DDB. You're the guy with so much insight. They're sitting here like, man, they're tapping into your deep knowledge on this contract and how to land it. And so that's like if you're a prosecutor, you get a star witness. You're like, yo, case closed.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why we've gone ahead and filed the suit, because we feel that very confident that any judge that looks at this is going to realize it's the typical bait and switch, right? Let's bring in the small guy. Let's milk him for his insights. Let's promise him the world. And then once we get it, let's pull the rug out from underneath them and find a way to get him out the door.
So you have emails, text messages, correspondence. This is 2 years. You've got a body of evidence showing the work that Hero did to land the contract.
Well, look, I mean, I'm obviously, Roland, I am currently in a litigation. But what I say is I feel very confident with the evidence and the communication trail that I've amassed.
Right, that's what I mean.
Exactly. I feel very confident without having to go into details.
Right.
Yes, I feel very confident that we have the evidence to make a very strong case that supports our position.
So they land the contract. What then happens? Do they say, who are you? I ain't never heard of you.
Well, it seemed as if that initially they were going through some onboarding issues and were trying to ask me to be patient as they were trying to sort everything out. And that the Army had decided to move to Chicago, and with that move, they were understaffed, and as a result, things were slowing down, right? So they asked me to be patient, but given that whole time, they were still hiring hundreds of people, right? So they were hiring.
And again, I want you to hold it right there. For the people who are watching and listening, I need y'all to understand. I need y'all to understand what Joe just said. He said they were hiring hundreds of people. What happens is when they land major contracts like this, they got to have people service the contracts. So they got to bring all these people in. They were doing what you were also planning to do. Hire people to service the deal. So again, now continue.
So I mean, I was then inquiring, well, look, I mean, we are obviously trying to do the same thing and staff up in order to be prepared for when these work orders come down and the services that we had agreed that I would be providing would come into play. I was asking to be onboarded. I was asking to be orientated, to be integrated into the process. When were we going to meet as a collective group? And I just continue to, just receive various stall tactics or being told to just be patient and wait. And then I asked for my contract because we were supposed to get a subcontract agreement. And by the time I finally got that subcontract agreement, which was about, 7 months, 6-7 months after the business was awarded, after, significant inquiries on my behalf to try and get that, it was stripped of any specificity that we had agreed upon and that was contained in our original agreement that more clearly defined the roles that we would play and what I was working for. Because think about it, Roland, if you're going to go into a situation and agree to partner with somebody, right, at your own potential peril and risk, making your own investments. I'm flying out to Chicago on my own. I'm investing my own time and materials into the intellectual property that ultimately gets presented to the Army. Then I want to do so knowing what my piece of the pie will be should we win. right? And so I'm not going to go into there without and make all those investments without some kind of understanding as to what I'm going to get out the deal should we be victorious. Now, what they tried to do is present me now with a contract that stripped away all of that detail and essentially said, guess what? We don't know yet what we're going to be doing, but when we do know, we'll essentially, we'll let you know if we need you, right? And it literally regulated me to an at-will contractor that they can get rid of at any given time without any recourse. And it just started to, really make me suspicious. And when I questioned it, that's when I started to get blacklisted, or the communication started to slow down and the temperament started to change and people's, attitude towards me started to change. And, and what I've noticed is if you stand up for yourself, right, it's almost a death sentence because you're then seen as a potential troublemaker. Now, I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but I'm just saying your action speaks volume.
Joe,
right?
Joe, let's be real clear. And see, again, I wish these people, people always run their mouths, don't understand that, look, I've been in media since I was 14 years old. So all the stuff you're talking about, I've literally been experiencing at every black newspaper, magazine, website, network, radio, you name it. This is not anything that's new. But what you're doing is exposing it and laying it out. What people have to understand, for instance, when we went public, when I blasted Y&R over the census, when I was demanding fair share from the Biden campaign, Ossoff, Warnock, and others, people, Roland's sticking people up. Roland's being loud. Well, if you're not doing this thing the right way, and if you're not honoring my metrics, which don't lie, and you're giving me short shrift, you leave me no option but to light your ass up. And so the reality is, we've never gotten anything the right way. Frederick Douglass said, agitate, agitate, agitate. I keep saying, show me where we have not had to fight for something. We've always had to fight for something. And what you are detailing, what you're laying out, is that you busted your butt to help them lay in the contract, provided insight and knowledge, and then they decide to ghost you. They decide to sit here and act like you don't even exist. And so what people have to understand, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. So if Joe wants to employ 100 black people in advertising, I need everybody who's listening to me. Let me put it in perspective. I have more black people who work on my show, and I'll put it up against any show on any cable network. I bet you I got more black people working on my show than any single show at CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. That's what happens when we have the ability to compete for dollars. We can provide opportunities for folks who have been disenfranchised and bring them into the pipeline, which allows for them to be able to go flourish and go elsewhere. But if you freeze us out of the money, we can't hire nobody.
And then we can't reinvest in our communities. And then we have to hear the narrative that we ain't doing for ourselves. Well, how can we do for ourselves if you ain't doing the right thing and providing the resources that we're entitled to that allow us to then make those investments in the human capital and then build offices and places to work within our urban communities and our urban centers and where we're from, so we don't feel as if we need to jettison from those places the first chance we get. These lives are at stake here, Roland. And we just went through a pandemic where we're seeing people on food lines, and we're seeing like our people bearing the brunt, of COVID-19 and constant and economic downturn, and us over-indexing in joblessness and unemployment. These are the lifelines that we depend upon, to ensure that we're getting our bite of the apple, our piece of the pie that can allow us to relatively make the investments in our community to help mitigate those those circumstances especially when moments like this happen.
And see, for the folk who are stuck on stupid, who love to run their mouths, who don't understand the triangle, who don't understand you have the top and then then you have at the bottom here. Folks, what I need y'all to understand, which is why I'm spending this amount of time with Joe on the show, which is why Reverend Dwight McKissick, we're going to have him on the show tomorrow because I don't want to cut them short. I need y'all to understand how all of this is linked. Again, if Burrell is being fed, Uniworld is being fed, Liquid Soul is being fed, Hero is being fed, Carol H. Williams is being fed, if my frat brothers Ahmad and Sherman are being fed, if Fuse is being fed, what then happens is they are feeding these black media outlets who they already know exist because they also know their audience. I need some of y'all who are watching and listening to listen to what I just said. Okay, listen again. What white ad agencies say is, oh, we don't need to give Roland no money. We can reach the black people in general market. We can run I need y'all listening. We can run ads during the NBA game to get black men. We can run ads during Queen Sugar to get black women. What Joe says, and Carol H. Williams and Liquid Soul, no, you can do that, but that black consumer who's watching black media, they are listening, and that's a different black consumer, that's a different relationship. The white folks go, they black. They don't matter who they are. But then guess what happens? The NBA money is going to TNT. It's going to ESPN. It's going to those entities. And who's getting frozen out? The black media outlet. And then what happens? You, the black consumer, you don't know about voter suppression. You don't know about the CB. You don't know about these other stories because guess what? Black media can't afford to hire staff to cover those issues. And so what you're describing right now, Joe, builds the black advertising ecosystem, which then builds the black media ecosystem, which then feeds our people, and everybody is nurtured and seeded and able to eat and learn and grow. But what they say is, no, if we cut Joe off, we cut all of that off. That's why this is big.
That's exactly right. And part of it is a preservation tactic on their side. They're seeing the browning of America happen right before their eyes, right? So you could argue, right, that who is the best suited minds and agencies to actually develop general market campaigns? Is it the big monolithic agencies that are out of touch with culture? Or is it the minority-owned agencies that actually live in our own culture and general market culture at the same time and have a greater purview on what's happening, given the fact that we're seeing a lot of these big agencies steal and borrow our culture anyway to create commercials that have Snoop Dogg or DJ Khaled in it, or whatever kind of piece of our culture they could jack in order to seem as if they are culturally relevant. Right. So if that's happening on that level, why can't we be seen as an agency that could actually develop more balanced communications that work for everyone, that not only that are rooted in insights, because we know we're the trend makers. All the trends come from us. Right. That's what they're tapping into.
Yep.
But if we actually have the ability to develop those same ad concepts, we can actually do the work that results in a more balanced, allocated investment that includes black media and does the mainstream media, and tell our stories in a way that are more profound and credible than they're doing right now.
Perfect example.
They see us as a threat, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to diminish us because they see us as a threat.
So Joe, you familiar with R.J. Dale?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For everybody watching and listening, I'm about to give y'all an example of what Joe is a little different than what Joe is dealing with, but to understand what happens. R.J. Dale, and matter of fact, Ashley, make a note so we can have R.J. Dale on the show later this week to further amplify this. R.J. Dale was in Chicago. R.J. Dale had R.J. Dale Advertising. R.J. Dale lands the Illinois lottery contract. Not the black part. He lands the Illinois lottery contract. He lands the prime contract. Okay? That's the equivalent of Joe's firm getting the $4 billion prime army contract. The white, y'all, I was in Chicago at the time. I know R.J. Dale personally. The white ad agency were pissed. How in the hell did he do that? They then kept putting pressure on lawmakers and the agency. Audit him. They were angry, Joe. And I don't use this word. I do not use this word. They essentially were saying, how did this nigga get that contract? How did he beat us out for the contract? You talked about creativity. R.J. Dale recruited Bernie Mac to do the commercials for the Illinois lottery. Sales go through the roof. They hounded Dale. They pounded on him, and they pounded and pounded until he lost the contract. Because they said, how dare this nigga get this main contract? And folks need to understand what we're dealing with. They do not want us getting the prime contract. They don't want us getting the subcontract. They want us begging and scrapping and fighting other black agencies and Latino agencies for the 4 or 5 crumbs. That is what you are having to deal with, Joe.
100%. And, that was one story that I think if you are a black agency owner, or you have aspirations of getting in this industry, and you see and you hear stories like RJ's, they give you hope and pause at the same time. They validate what our potential is, but at the same time, at what cost, right? And so as a result, a lot of people are staying quiet or shying away from taking on greater opportunities, or opportunities that have bigger upside that actually could be disruptive to the and paradigm shifts in this actual industry that has been so segmented, where if you come into this industry, you're told specifically, this is what you are supposed to do. You cannot operate in this capacity, right? You are here to work in this little lane that's becoming decreasingly smaller and smaller and smaller over time. And despite the fact that you're seeing them start to tell our stories and infringe upon our culture in a way to seem cool, relevant, and on trend, we still have to contend with just focusing on creating campaigns during Black History Month or activating during Essence. And the reality is there's only so many brands that are spending the type of money to be able to really develop more holistic campaigns, right? Because their general market agencies are telling them, we got that. You don't even have to spend that money with the black agency to reach this market, to your earlier point, because we can get them through ESPN and Instagram.
So for the people,
so
for the people who are watching who don't quite understand, they're like, what's this lottery contract? This is a story from the Chicago Reader. It was a $100 million advertising contract. I need all y'all watching and listening to understand. When y'all are watching television and you see a commercial, an agency produced that commercial. That means directors, writers, creatives, lighting people were hired to produce the commercial. That means somebody was hired to place that commercial. All that's paid. When you see a newspaper ad, a magazine ad, when you see a banner ad on a website, when you see a pop-up ad come, there's a company that got paid to place those ads in those media platforms. And in this story right here, R.J. Dale says that he didn't feel lucky getting his contract. There were low commission rates, sky-high legal fees from state audits. Quote, quite honestly, it damn near put us out of business.
Mm-hmm.
But, go back to the iPad. During its 5-year contract term, revenue from the lottery increased by $490 million. Folks, when we talk about systemic racism, and we talk about how the pressure is brought to bear against black entrepreneurs who, to keep them broke, to keep them begging, that's what we're talking about with R.J. Dale, and that's what we're talking about right here. Joe, they don't want you to be a $500 million agency. They don't want you to be a $1 billion agency because they know we, black folks, we had to do stuff with no money. So a whole bunch of black directors didn't want to do Selma. I can't do that for $25 million. Ava DuVernay said, hell, I can. Look how Ava took making Selma and what she's parlayed it into. That's what we're talking about here. They don't want to see Hero become as big as DDB or Young and Rubicam, because they know if we can keep controlling the dollars, then we control the whole media landscape.
And that's why we need legislative change at the federal level, right? Because what's happening right now, especially with government contracts, look, we need a reckoning to happen within this industry overall, and we need brands to take greater stock of themselves and their supplier and procurement practices. They cannot just say when they have a review, let's just invite white big agencies. They have to open it up. Right, and we have to hold them accountable as well.
So hold on right there. You and I know what review means. For people who don't know, explain to them when a company says we're putting our business up for review.
This is a very important point, right? So every so often a brand, whether it be a McDonald's or a Procter & Gamble or Mercedes-Benz, they have advertising service contracts that they actually put up for bid so that companies like mine and Carol H and other bigger agencies can go out there and compete for, right? And every year there's series of contracts that are up for bid or up for review that we can actually try and get them to invite us to actually participate in so that we have a chance of winning it. So when the Army went up for review, that's when DDB and myself got involved in trying to pursue the contract because they were actually putting it up for bid.
And so we just got a couple of minutes left. If everybody understand, this is not going to be a one and done. This is an issue that before Joe even filed a lawsuit, I've been committed to. Y'all have been hearing me talk about this. Y'all have been hearing me lay the groundwork for this. You heard me also say, I put this on Instagram, in 2021, we ain't sitting here looking for crumbs. What did my man Leslie say playing Sam Cooke? He said, damn the pie, I want the recipe. What we're dealing with here is this here. If we don't fight this fight right now, you're not going to have black-owned media. You're not going to 100%. Have black-owned ad agencies, which means black people, listen to me clearly, and there are white people. I got a letter from a guy, 70-year-old gay guy, who sent me a contribution. There are white people who watch my show. I have white staffers. let's be real clear. If this continues, there will be no Roland Martin Unfiltered in the future. There will be no Essence. There will be no Revived Ebony. There will be no Blavity. There will be no Griot. You cannot survive in media without advertising dollars. All y'all people on YouTube and Facebook saying we can go create this here. I told y'all when Congresswoman Val Demings was on here, when we were discussing her media ownership resolution, it means nothing to own something if you can't eat. And advertising dollars is the backbone of the media industry. Joe, what has been the response that you have gotten from other black agencies or black people in the industry or even black people who work at these brands who work with these agencies?
It's been a humbling experience. You know, obviously when you make a decision like I did, you know, historically you could be put out there on an island because everybody's scared that if they raise their hand in support of you, that they were actually going to be ostracized or blacklisted or, you know, ghosted out the game. And but on the contrary, you know, the support has been incredible. We have been getting calls and emails of support from, you know, people within the industry, you know, commending us for our courage and our willingness to speak up on an issue that has been endemic, that has been long overdue to be brought up. And so we are extremely excited by the outcry of support that we're getting. We even have people from Omnicom who have reached out or have engaged in our content and our media announcements, you know, in support. People who have emailed me directly from Omnicom saying that they can't believe that this has happened, that it's appalling, right? So, you know, people are more, I think, compelled now, especially in the wake of George Floyd, to be more outspoken. And it's something that obviously has been humbling and something that we obviously are going to continue to encourage, because the more that we can collectively unify our voice to let this industry know, to let the federal government know that, you know, it's over. You know, the time of us being marginalized is done, right? And we got to demand change, and that means we have to organize and we have to give people clear instruction as to what they can do and the role they can play to help drive the change that we need.
The thing that you talked about, what people don't get is you knew the moment you filed this lawsuit that you potentially were pulling a Colin Kaepernick move. That we know how this game works, where they say, we might blackball you forever. This is one of the reasons why black people and others in media, Latinos, women, don't file lawsuits against media companies, because media protects media. This was a bold stance, and the moment I saw the lawsuit, for everybody out there, for everybody who's watching, I need y'all to understand why you have to have black media. One, why y'all have to support black media, and why black media has to fight for the Joe Anthonys of the world in order for us to survive. Because the moment I saw this story on the lawsuit, I had never met Joe. And if we did meet, I can't remember when we met. I went to LinkedIn, sent him an email, yo, hit me up. That was Friday. I said, Joe, I'm putting you on a show on Monday. And we're going to spend the time to walk through this to educate our audience, because part of this, Joe, you talk about the legislation. Part of this, and I've experienced this as well, is that our black legislatures don't know. They don't know the game. They don't understand the nuances, because and I get it. And so we have to, and I have talked to the Congressional Black Caucus. I did this with the Illinois Black Caucus. I did this when I was in Texas with the Texas Black Caucus. Every place where I lived and worked, to say, y'all, the reason y'all don't see black press outside of the House and the Senate chambers or the state legislature, because we can't afford to send a staffer, because we're not getting advertising dollars. And here's the thing, Joe, you're talking about a government contract. This isn't a private business or a publicly traded company. This is, listen to me, everybody watching, listening. We're discussing $4 billion of taxpayer money. And I go back to the General Accounting Office review that Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton had done in 2018 at the behest of NNPA. 2018, the federal government spent $5 billion over 5 years and only $51 million went to black media. So everybody listening, when DDB cuts out Joe Anthony and Hero, $400 million a year for them, $4 billion over 10 years. Then they cut out Joe. Joe firm doesn't grow. He can't drive money to black media. That's your money. This is taxpayer money that black people are not benefiting from. Joe, final comment.
And I can't. Yeah, and I can't hire your daughters. I can't hire your sons. I can't create career trajectories to develop the next Roland Martins or the next Joe Anthony's or the next leader in the black communications and marketing industry. So this is not just about right now, it's about our future, right? And this issue is not just unique to the advertising and media industry, it's pervasive in every segment of spending that the government outputs. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill that's about to be passed, we need our piece of that. You know, the $500 billion that is given to Boeing to build jets, we need our piece of that. The $5 billion that was paid to Pfizer and Moderna to buy vaccines directly for them, we need our piece of that. So essentially what's happening right now is because these legislators don't know, it's going unchecked. And as a result, billions of dollars of money that's supposed to go into the black and brown community, right, to create businesses that ultimately create jobs, wealth, and can be redistributed to other businesses, specifically, in this case, black media, all of that stuff is going by the wayside. What does that mean? We still got to continue to struggle to find our place, despite the fact we continue to see these individuals exploit our culture, leverage our ideas, our creativity to go and win awards and make billions of dollars. It has to stop, and everyone has to stand up and play their part.
Folks, this is why this show matters. Black-owned media matters. Black-owned ad agencies matter. This is why when I ask y'all to support this show, a lot of y'all watch us on YouTube and Facebook for free. But understand, when I ask you for $50 for over the course of a year, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, it is because what you're doing is you're actually funding this. Some of y'all have been commenting, well, why wasn't they get paid? Y'all need to understand, when you're going after a contract, they don't pay you when you're going after a contract. You get paid when you land the contract. It's called making an investment. Same thing. When I'm going after an advertising client, nobody's paying me to travel somewhere to pitch, paying me to put the materials together. My investment is in trying to land that contract. And so that's what Joe's company was doing. That's what we do as well. And so when I'm asking folks to join our Bring the Funk fan club, it is to provide us with the capital for us to go out here and wage war and fight for folks like Joe. Because we're going to take this segment and we're going to push this thing out on all social media platforms to inform our people. Let me be real clear, and there's no disrespect to anybody black at the other networks. Don Lemon not going to talk to Joe for 45 minutes. Joanne Reed not going to have Joe on for 45 minutes. Lawrence O'Donnell not going to do it. Harris Faulkner and Fox not going to do it. Charles Payne and Fox Business not going to do it. We have got to have our own platforms where, like the first black newspaper Freedom's Journal said on March 16, 1827, we wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. Joe, we appreciate it. Keep us abreast of what's going on. We're going to keep pushing this thing. And let us know what you want our audience to do. What, from a public pressure standpoint, do we need to be tagging DDB on Twitter and tagging DDB on Instagram and Facebook? If so, we game.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's got to play their part right now, like you said. And DDB, the U.S. Army, all of them should be hashtag and tag on a respective post that really communicates your sentiment and how you feel about the matter. Again, this is your money, y'all. You know, it's not just money that's coming to me. It's money that comes through me and then gets reinvested in the community. So we need to take a community stance and utilize our voices and our platforms. So, you know, please use your Twitter, contact your local congressman, let the apprise them of the situation, how you feel, speak to your local recruiters, you know, and everyone else in your community, you know, that is connected to this, and let them know how you feel. So absolutely, Roland.
All right, Joe Anthony, I appreciate it, brother. We're definitely going to have you back, and we'll stay on top of this story. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends, go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. One of the things that we also talk about on this show, we talk about money, and we talk about, again, the importance of money. Yesterday, President Joe Biden unveiled one of his executive orders dealt with the issue dealing with racial equity. And we talk about racial equity, we got to do what we're talking about, money. Susan Rice also spoke about that in terms of mandating all of the federal agencies be focused on that very issue of equity, putting that at the forefront. Now, I've told you all about this, and I just want to give y'all again how we're going to start breaking this thing down. One of the things that we're going to do here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to be looking at this issue of equity from multiple departments and showing you where your tax dollars are going. Now, the other day, I had a 45-minute conversation with Joe Anthony, who is suing DDB over him helping them get a $4 billion contract with the U.S. Army. A 10-year contract, $4 billion. That's $400 million a year. Now, I told you the amount of money that the federal government spends every single year when it comes to media advertising and how we are locked out. Well, when I was talking to Joe, I referenced a 2018 report that was commissioned by Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton by the Government Accountability Office. The NNPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, or the Black Press of America, asked her to put this together so they can have a real accounting of how much federal money, your tax dollars, are being spent and where is it going. That GAO report revealed federal agencies spend very little advertising with black and other minority-owned businesses. According to their report, between 2013 and 2018, federal government agencies spent $5 billion on advertising. Let me repeat that for y'all. $5 billion in 5 years. $327 million went to minority-owned media companies. $51 million of the $327 million went to black media. So again, $5 billion, $327 million going to minorities, $51 billion of the $5 billion going to black folks, 1%. Congresswoman Norton says she would work with black and minority publishers to press her colleagues in Congress to demand greater spending on minority-owned outlets to reach minority audiences that most traditional outlets do not. The question is, has that been happening? Joining us right now is Dr. Ben Chavis. He's the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Ben, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You cannot have a growing media entity if you don't get advertising money. Pure and simple. That is the lifeblood of every media operation. Fox News profits $1 billion+ a year. CNN, some 700 million. MSNBC, 600-700 million. That's profit. They make way more than that. But the reality is, when you start talking about black media, it ain't even close to that because we've been frozen out. This GAO report was important. What has happened in the last 2 years with us starting just now in 2021?
Thank you, Roland. This is a very important issue for all black-owned media. And certainly, it's a good thing that President Biden now has put as a priority the question of equity. And once he signs these executive orders, which he has, the question now is, how are these executive orders to be implemented? Who's going to ride herd? I understand that Ambassador Susan Rice has been given a responsibility to have interagency oversight. The federal government in 2021 is still the largest single advertiser, over $1 billion. And a lot of that money does not go to black-owned media. So what needs to happen is there needs to be further legislation. Eleanor Holmes Norton's bill was the start to get the study done. Now, after the study has been done, which we always knew these inequities were there, Roland, your last segment was about white terrorism. Well, look, white supremacy has also been in government spending. The denial of black-owned media to be in the advertising budgets keeps our media houses almost in a form of neo-slavery, oppression. And so that needs to be overcome. So I think that while we have a new administration, the Biden-Harris administration, black media now, we must press this course. Because if there's ever a time that we need to get equity, and equity goes beyond equality. Equity is a financial term that means that there will be equal sharing, equitable sharing in the distribution of resources. And right now, there's a long history of the inequities, the long history of the denial of black-owned businesses, in this case, black media business, from getting into the federal budgets of all the agencies. If we had fairness, you know, we are almost 14-15% of the population. Rather than 1%, if we got 15% of federal dollars spending on black media, it would make a difference, a life-supporting difference and sustainability difference for all black-owned media in America.
Well, hell, if black media got just 10% of the $1 billion annually, you're talking about going from a total of 51 million. First of all, 50. Remember, that's 50. To everybody understand, that's 51 million out of the 5 billion, which really means that broke down to about 10 million a year. So you're talking about if you go from 10 million a year to 100 million a year, that's significant, and that's just 10%. But Ben, the thing here that I want to know is that was dropped in 2018. What happened 2019, 2020? Was there any improvement? Did you see any improvement?
No, we did not see an improvement. In fact, during the Trump administration, there was a denial of what Congress Eleanor Holmes Norton's bill exposed. And so now we have to go back and repress this course now that we have a change in administration. I think the OMB, the Department of Treasury, the Department of Commerce, all these things have to be readdressed, and we got to keep the pressure on. I think everybody's celebrating the new administration, but our celebration now must be translated into concrete, equitable distribution of resources. And again, we're not asking for charity, Roland. This is business. This is one-on-one business.
No. Let's be clear. This is taxpayer money. Black people's money too.
That's right. We pay taxes, but the distribution of the taxes do not come back to our community. Plus, our spending. African Americans spend over $1 trillion in the American economy every year, but very little of that money is turned back into our communities.
But I think I think also what we have to do is this is actually a multi-level approach, which is what I was talking to Joe Anthony about the other night, and that is what really happens here is first. The people who get the advertising contracts are the white advertising agencies.
Agencies, that's right.
What the federal government then does gives them complete control over the dollars. So you don't have any real oversight or demands for how they should operate. So then what happens is these white ad agencies then screw the black ad agencies, don't even consider them to be partners when it comes to distributing the money to black media. And as you know, if black ad agency is frozen out, we ain't getting anything. I can tell
That's
you,
correct.
as somebody who has participated, I have participated in the past 6 months on several phone calls with major white ad agencies. And in the conversations, you can hear them ask the questions in order for them to set you up for them to be able to say, no, we're not going to give you any money. In fact, Congressman Stephen Horsford said on this show and said that Young and Rubicam told him when it came to the census money, they were not going to buy any ads in any newspaper, 50,000 circulation or less. Ben, that's 98% of black newspapers in America.
Exactly. Well, again, it's institutionalized racism. I didn't put it like you said, Roland. It's institutionalized white supremacy racism. It's institutionalized white supremacy inequities. And so President Biden and Vice President Harris, they're going to be challenged, not only by these white supremacists that are going crazy in the street level, but white supremacy is also in public policy making. White supremacy is also in the regulatory agencies. And these advertising agencies that you mentioned, why do they keep getting all of the federal contracts? And that needs to be looked at because these ad agencies are a fundamental part of the problem.
And so, again, I need for the people at home, because one of the reasons why I'm purposely doing this, I'm going to bring my panel in just a second, and they have questions for you as well, Ben. I'm trying to walk our people through this because I think a big part of this is that our folk don't know. And when I say our folks, I don't just mean the people who are watching. I'm telling you right now, city council members don't know this. County commissioners, state legislators, our CBC members don't know. They go out and they fight for the additional money to be placed in the budgets, but then don't understand what happens once the money is allocated and then how they freeze us out. They don't understand how what some of these white ad agencies will do is go out, hire them 2 Negroes, I'm saying that for a reason, give them a $60,000 or $70,000 consulting contract. Those 2 Negroes are happy, they got them a consulting contract without realizing that they really are screwing the black ad agency out of $30, $40, $50, $60 million. So you took $70 million, you took $70,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 for a consulting contract when, dumbass, you could have got $50 million. Because if you do the numbers, let's take the U.S. Census. Y&R had access to $350 million. Y&R gets the contract. Y&R takes their 15% off the top. Y'all, do the math. That's $42.5 million. Then they assign it to another agency that they own. Then they get their cut. Then they assign to another agency that they own to handle the digital, the print, and the broadcast. They all getting cut. So the $350 million, by the time it gets down to being spent, hell, they already took $100 million.
So Roland, we need to call them out. But your point about the lack of information and facts steadily, consistently, on a daily basis going to the black community, that's a great point. What I think we should work together, Roland, we need to come out with an equity report card on all the ad agencies, on all the federal agencies, anybody dealing with advertising dollars, in the government sector, not on the federal level, state level, municipal level, and county levels. I'm telling you, African-American owned businesses, particularly black-owned media businesses, are being robbed every day because of these inequities.
So, again, for everybody who's watching at home, I'm trying to connect the dots here so people understand what we are dealing with. And what we're dealing with right now is how the system is set up. And then what they then do is they then begin to look into the loopholes, then how to freeze people out. I have called for the Congressional Black Caucus to demand an audit of Young and Rubicam to know where every single media dollar went to go for the United States Census. Every single dollar. And I don't want groupings. I don't want groupings of this is how much minority media got. No, 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 no. I want to know specifically, here were the media outlets. I want to see who got the most to who got the least. And then I want to see who they identify as black-owned media. Because again, to me, the audit needs to be black, it needs to be minority media, it needs to be black-targeted media, then black-owned media, in order to get a real assessment. And again, don't put MWBE, don't put white women in this. To me, in order for you to do it right, you got to break the numbers down. And I've been in contact with the Congressional Black Caucus about this because, again, we got to fight the main advertising agencies. But there is no way in hell government agencies should be practicing racism, what you're seeing in private industry. And so that means targeting the federal government, targeting these state governments, these county governments, these city governments, going after each one. And then there should be congressional hearings on Capitol Hill of these ad agencies and how they are screwing over black media.
Absolutely. If there's ever was a strategic time to do what you just said, Roland Martin, it is now. We need to do it now. We don't need to be reactive. We need to be proactive. And we need to, as we say in North Carolina, we need to pull the sheets off these people.
Let's go, Scott Bolden, you represent NNPA. You do work with them on a legal basis. Your thoughts on this issue? I mean, we're talking millions and millions of dollars, and this is the reason right here black media can't grow. This is the reason right here why we don't have newsrooms of 50 and 75 and 100 employees, because, hell, if you don't get the advertising money, you can't hire nobody and build capacity. Mute button, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Now they had your audio down. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Chair, it's good seeing you. You know, most of our businesses are going to probably be reluctant to take on the ad agencies vis-a-vis private sector, because what Roland just laid out was, you know, they want their piece of the pie too.
But they ain't getting nothing.
You're right. But in their mentality, 50 million, they say, I can't get 50 million, but I can get my 10,000, I can get my 25,000. So Dr. Chavis, my question to you is, in partnering with NABJ and other organizations and going to the Hill to advocate, and I know you do that every year for NNPA, who are your angel investors in the House and Senate and in the White House? Who carries that fight for us against the federal government as you represent the NNPA, and obviously NABJ is out there as well? Who are your angel investors on the Hill that can take this fight and see it through to the end?
Well, Congresswoman Maxine Waters is chair of the Finance Committee. We've had some discussions about this. She has oversight over all the banking and the financial services institutions that also don't advertise with black-owned media. So Congresswoman Maxine Waters is one. But I would also say now, because of the announcement this week by President Biden that Ambassador Susan Rice certainly needs to be called upon. We need to meet with her like ASAP to make sure that her responsibility now to provide oversight over all of the federal government. They like to use this term, a whole of government approach. Well, we need a whole of government approach from the White House to members of Congress, but also we need NNPA, NABJ, and other black-owned media organizations to press this course. Now's the time to do it.
Well, look,
just legislation or a reg that says 20% of that $1 billion needs to go to black media. Isn't that just the more simple answer?
Well, again, getting those formulas, getting those policies in place. We've just witnessed 4 years of triage, 4 years of denial. If anything, the last 4 years, the Trump administration did everything they could to put Black people out of business, rather than in business. And so now we have to recover not only from the coronavirus, but we have to recover from systemic white racism, terrorism, both on the streets and in the pocketbooks of Black-owned businesses.
Robert Patillo.
One of the things that we've seen this year in particular is the need to address Black audiences. During the campaigns, there was a special effort made to target Black folks, and in many ways that was brought Democrats across the finish line. As we're rolling out the coronavirus vaccine, there's been a great emphasis on communicating with Black communities. The military each year is one of the largest advertisers in the country, and they're more than happy to recruit Black and brown people for the military, but they aren't spending that money with Black and brown media outlets. What can be done legislatively? What can be done put into law that will not violate any what the model legislation out there that would address these issues? Because simply put, this is a line item in a budget issue that could pass very easily. But where's the legislation at, and who's pushing that legislation?
1 second. So before you go there, let me unpack this here. There were people who were patting themselves on their backs about the amount of money that was being spent on Black media. But let me be perfectly clear. It simply was wholly inadequate. Now, you're talking to somebody who did get money from the Biden campaign, Ossoff and Warnock campaign, the DSCCC. Was it what it should have been? Hell no. Now, why am I saying that? Because let me be real clear. Political dollars, just like other folk, they expect us to take crumbs, as opposed to appreciating what we actually bring to the table. Now, when folk get in trouble, then all of a sudden they respect us, and then they want to come as the last second. And so what I'm talking about here, because I dealt with the same thing dealing with the DSCCC. We were on a phone call with the white ad buyers, and they sitting here with what are your metrics, what are your numbers, all this sort of stuff along those lines, and they were not treating us being like a media company. They were treating us like a specialty, like you a celebrity. I'm like, no. Talk to me like you talk to CNN. Talk to me like you talk to Fox News and all the Atlanta radio stations and TV stations who got paid. And so it's all of that. See, Ben, if we put the federal government on notice, private industry will be on notice. Political parties will be on notice. That's why it's important to get them to act right, because the argument we can make is that's tax dollars y'all are screwing us out of.
Absolutely. Everybody knows the power of the Black vote. Biden would not be president. Kamala Harris would not be vice president. The brothers and the election that took place in Georgia would not have happened without the Black vote. In fact, the Democratic Party would not be leading the House, the Senate, and the White House if it were not for the Black vote. The question is, why do we have to now beg the people who we put in office to treat us right? That's what's at stake. It is not only a question of equity. It's also a question of integrity. It's a question of reciprocity. It's a question of respect. And we are going to press this course like never before.
You know, I get a kick, Monique, out of stuck on stupid people who, think they know what we're talking about as if we don't know it, as if we ain't been living this. I mean, I've only been doing media for 38 years. I mean, that's it, just only. Then somebody put study CNN, ABC, NBC as a model for international growth. Your ass can't go international if you can't be national, Thomas. See, I mean, stop saying stupid stuff, okay? I can't. How in the hell am I going to go across the pond if I can't even go across town?
That's right.
Wait, was his name really Thomas?
But see, and again, but people don't understand, okay? You do not have a dedicated individual who covers Congress for Black media. because we can't afford the extra staff. This is a numbers game. Look, I got 12 people who work for me. Do you know a bunch of black newspapers ain't got 12 people? And again, it's capacity. If you're not getting the dollars, you can't hire people. You can't hire people, you can't cover stuff. You can't cover what's happening in your city. You sure as hell can't cover the state. You can't cover the nation, and you can't cover the world.
Okay, yes. Is it my turn?
Yes, go.
All right, I'm ready. So from last night, and thank you, Roland, just in the middle of the night, the wee hours of the morning, coming onto my live. But I want to continue that conversation because I was talking about this word equity and the difference between equity and equality, and how grateful I am for this current administration that understands that it's not just nomenclature. And where I guess I would disagree, I'm not going to disagree with Dr. Chavis. I love you, Dr. Chavis, God bless you, but the rest of y'all. The way that I'm going to disagree is it's not just money. Because when we look at the difference between equality and equity, and then if I dare go from equity to justice, what I'm saying is equality is everybody gets the same thing. You get 3 apples, you get 3 apples, you get 3 apples, you get 3 apples. It's too late for the United States with that because we have slavery in the vestiges of it. We have discrimination in the vestiges of it. We have Jim Crow in the vestiges of it. We have redlining in the vestiges of it. We have inadequate school systems in the vestiges of it. So we're living in what could have been equal 3 centuries ago, but no. All right. And so we got to get to equity. And that's where President Biden and Vice President Harris, thank you, Black woman winning, and the administration, they're saying, but it's equity because equal doesn't matter if one person only has 1 arm and the other person has 2. So what we got to do now is we got to give ladders. We got to give extra funds. We have to give incentives. We have to make ways so that the result, the outcome is equal. And I'm thankful that they understand that difference. GW, George Washington University, I think it's their Milken Institute. They have a great study on this of equality versus equity. What is the difference? What does it mean? Why is it important for disenfranchised people? So I would encourage you all to go and look that up right now. I will give you the website, but Roland get mad at me if I look at my phone. Mm-hmm. So
Ben, go ahead.
Look that up. But but here's the thing. They go further and they say equal is you get a ladder, you get a ladder. My tree has a lot of apples on my side. We on the same tree. Your side is barren. Equity is I've got a ladder, you've got a ladder. I've got some apples, you got a few apples. We're helping you reach a little bit higher so you can get to some of my apples. Justice.
All right. Monique, you're repeating yourself now. You get like Sky. You get like Sky.
But that sounds like equitable.
You get like Sky. Hold on. Ben, respond. I got it, Monique. Ben, respond. Ben, respond.
I think that we should not get hung up in the semantics of the difference between equity and equality and empowerment. We need all 3.
It's not semantics.
And I think that we have to press the course. There's no difference of opinion. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We have a problem, and this problem is a serious, systematic problem, and we need to work together to address this problem. Listen, I don't think we should be accepting any inequality. I don't think we should be accepting any inequity, and I don't think we should accept anything that's not going to give us the capacity to empower ourselves, to build our businesses, and raise our communities out of poverty. White benevolence is not going to do it. And that is why I think that we have to demand from a business perspective how to engage these new policies. I think the policy articulation by the Biden-Harris administration is great. The question now is how it will be implemented and what will be the results, not 4 years from now, but now. Our problems are so severe in Black America. We do not have time to have more studies. We know the problem. Now's the time for us to get action. And that is why reparations is just not about money. Reparations is about repairing the damage. And the damage is systematic when it comes to Black-owned businesses.
Look, for me, this is real simple. I keep it real simple. Short term, the amount of money they're spending on COVID, how much money is going to Black media when it comes to outreach and when it comes to the vaccine? That's first. That's what I want to know right now. Second thing, I want to audit on the census money because they're still dealing with that, where that money is going. Is there any money left? Thirdly, the CBC should say there should be a complete audit of every single federal agency to know, look at every single contract right now, what advertising agency has the contract, and what Black ad agencies are those white ad agencies partnering with, and what Black media are getting dollars from those existing ad agencies. And so that's what should happen. And so, Ben, I don't know who y'all have with NMPA working on that. We can certainly work together on that, but we have to put that information out and expose it, because if people aren't armed with information, then they don't have it. And I dare say Scott's law firm should be looking at filing a significant lawsuit against the advertising industry for their systematic exclusion of Black folks. But that's, Scott, something you can work on. And I'm sure Rainbow Push will want to be involved in it as well. And since Monique here, I'm sure she can help Scott as well. So everybody on this panel can go to work.
Then what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Easy. I just gave you the damn plan. See, clearly, clearly, Scott, you know nothing about the Bible. Where in Nehemiah, when Nehemiah surveyed the wall and that was damaged, and then he came up with a plan of action, and then he went to the people. The Bible says the people said, "Let us rebuild." See, Doc Tavis, he don't know nothing about that, Doc. He ain't read Nehemiah. He don't know.
But look, one good thing I can say about Scott Boland, he's the general counsel for the National Newspaper Publishers Association. And the reason why we chose him, we are going to have to take legal action. We're also going to have to do extra legal action. But I think the audit, because see, the thing is, Roland, there have been studies, and so the data is there. The question is now, it's time for action by these federal agencies. And of course, we're going to meet with the Congressional Black Caucus, absolutely, as you recommended. And we're going to meet with the White House. We're going to meet with Susan Rice. I think we need a whole of a government approach to make sure that we don't get triage this time. What happened with the United States Census was terrible. The way they treated the Carl Williams agent, which was the only Black agent, she was a subcontractor. They never contracted with Black-owned ad agencies. They did it with the white agency. And that's why Black-owned media did not get fair share of those advertising dollars. That only happens every 10 years with the U.S. Census.
All right. Dr. Chambers, if I may, Roland, if I may.
30 seconds. 30
seconds. The attack has to also go to the agency. So when that bid comes out, we're not accepting subcontracts. We need to be a direct contractor. And the way the bid is written has to be looked at. And then you can contest that bid through a bid protest so that we get more direct contracts versus subcontract. Yes,
and I'm saying that's what your law firm is there for. Ben Chambers, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man. We're going to keep this thing going. In the words of that financial wizard, Frank Lucas, the gangster, I'm going to get that money.
It's right on TV, right? You just said it, just like that.
He said it.
All right.
Denzel in the movie. I'm gonna get that money. Ben Chambers, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Like you went to Texas A&M.
All right, stop talking, Scott. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it.
Show.
Scott, will you be quiet? Every Wednesday, I gotta do this. Robert and Monique know how to be quiet when I'm trying to end a segment. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. All right, y'all. All right, folks. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. But right now, we want to go to Congresswoman Val Demings, who is from Florida. She joins us right now. Congresswoman, glad to always have you on the show. And so I want you to explain to folks this House Resolution 549, what it actually means, what is it intended to do, and what will be the outcome for African Americans.
Well, Roland, thank you so much. We have been working on this since our time in Congress in 2017. We all know, are familiar with the Kerner report that basically said over 50 years ago now that the lack of diversity can contribute to racial tension. The lack of diversity in media, on the big screen, and radio, and ownership. Who tells the story matters. Who owns the company matters. You help to frame the story. So whether you're on the big screen, whether you're in radio, whether you're in printed media, whether you are in front of the camera or behind the camera, on the microphone or not, diverse voices are important to how our views are shaped, how our opinions are framed. And so this was a commitment, and I'm so excited about the overwhelming bipartisan support we received yesterday to say that Congress is committed to making sure that diversity is included in every realm, every aspect of the media. And so we've been working, we have a brain trust that we've been working with some of the brightest and the best in the field, bringing them to the table. We've had summits during the annual leadership conference with the CBC. We've invited some of the brightest minds to deal with this issue to help us really move this legislation forward, not just to a commitment, but to actual action in the field. And so we are excited about it. We still have a lot of work to do, but the first major hurdle is past us with the passing of this resolution.
But this is what I think is, and look, I absolutely believe in black ownership. But the issue that we face is really not ownership. The issue that we face is even after we launch it, we start it, we buy it, we own it, how we're being locked out of the dollars that drive the ownership. So I'm gonna go here. 2 years ago, the NNPA worked with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, and she asked the General Accounting Office to do an audit to ascertain how much the federal government spends on advertising each year and how much goes to black businesses. Go to my iPad, please. This is what it said. Fed ad purchases from black media only 1% of $5 billion. And so in a 5-year period, I'm gonna show you in a second, in a 5-year period, 41-page report, federal government agencies spent $5 billion in advertising. Just $327 million went to minority-owned businesses, but other $327, $51 million only went to black-owned. I can tell you, as a black media company, this is the issue that we find with political campaigns, that we find with the DSCC, the DCCC, the DNC. We found it with the Biden campaign. We said all over. Now you talk about federal agencies. And so you can own it, but you can never have capacity and grow it to be able to be a CNN or MSNBC or Fox News because we get completely frozen out of the ad dollars.
Roland, one of the major components of this commitment, this resolution, is that the strong cannot survive or should not be able to survive at the expense of the weak. And the information that you just laid out in terms of advertising dollars, that has been a top priority for us. You're absolutely correct. I certainly am a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. We talked about it then. I was one of the recruitment chairs with the DCCC. We talked about it then. I certainly have worked with the Biden campaign. We talked about it then. And so this legislation, we certainly understand that the strength goes where the dollars goes. And if we're going to get to the point where we need to get to with diversity in all things in this area, then the dollars have got to accompany the resolution and the legislation. And so we have a lot of work ahead of us, but I am very, very encouraged by where we can get to if we continue to have the political will and hear from voices like yours to help us get to where we need to get to.
I'm gonna tell you, I mean, that really is the piece. And I'm just gonna use an example. I mean, you know, and just to understand, the federal government is one thing, and I think certainly, and this happened with the census. Your colleague, Congressman Stephen Horsford, was on here. When he met with Y&R, Young and Rubicam, which was the agency that they picked to handle the $300 million for the census, they told him, we are not going to buy any advertising for any newspapers, 50,000 circulation or less. That arbitrary decision completely impacts 98% of all black newspapers. 98%. And now, but here's the other deal. So I have to deal with them on this. Let me tell you how the game was rigged. Y&R got the contract. Then they gave it to a subsidiary that they also owned to manage it. Then they partitioned the digital portion out to a subsidiary they own. Then they partitioned the TV and radio to a subsidiary they own. So they got paid 3 different times. We filled out the ad deal in April, never heard from them. I called them out on the air, on social media. They called Carol H. Williams, the black ad agency, who they froze out. And, oh my God, what's going on? She said, y'all ain't responding to his proposal. That's the only reason we got some money, because I had to literally call them out. So again, part of this deal is how these games are being played. Now that's just, again, and the CBC fought to get, Barbara Lee told me, they fought to get $70 million added to the budget to reach black folks. So here's what I think all should happen. The CBC should do an audit of Young and Rubicam and say how much of the census money went to black media. And pinpoint it, because that's also part of the deal. They don't like the word audit because they're controlling the dollars. In these white ad agencies, they come up with the metrics to freeze us out. The game that they play to freeze black media out is stunning.
Oh, Roland, I'm well aware of the games that they play, but those are the kind of things that we need to be directly involved in. I was serious about voices like yours coming to the table because this is an issue that we've dealt with way too long. I think we made a yeoman's effort over the last couple of years to really try to hold them accountable. But as you've just indicated, I think the census is just one primary example. We know that black and brown communities, many of them are very suspect, if you will, about the census. And reaching them through black media, reaching them through black newspapers and brown newspapers and other black radio and others is the way to get the message to them about the importance of the census. And so that is a primary example that we can use going forward, whether it's an audit, whether it's hearings, but really looking at where we need to go, what games are still being played, and what path needs to be taken to get us where we need to be. So when the census rolls around again, we will not find ourselves in the same place.
Well, we stand with you, and I said this. I mentioned that $5 billion to Senator Chuck Schumer when he was on here. I'm still trying to get Speaker Nancy Pelosi to come on. I told her office, and let me be real clear, the white staffers in her office, that she got to be doing black media as well, not just doing MSNBC and CNN. But again, I said to the Biden-Harris folk, we coming after that $5 billion because there's no way we can ever grow if we're frozen out. And that's really how the game has been played. And so we appreciate this resolution. Anything that we can do to simply let us know. But in the words of that great financial wizard, gangster Frank Lucas, I'm going to get that money.
Roland, Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's so great to be with you again.
I appreciate it. Congresswoman Val Demings, great job with the resolution, and we'll keep it going. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just
It's
one-
time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.